It was XRP Unleashed, but now it is.
Rigged from the start.
Thank you. From the start, exposing the SEC's war on crypto, and which is, I think, a really good title actually for this movie. It was a little bit of a broadening of the subject matter. How did that come about that you broadened the title of the movie?
And I think it was, kind of when you start to realize you get outside of the crypto bubble a little bit, those of us who are living inside of this crypto universe day and night, the title XRP Unleashed made a lot of sense because it was sort of the dawning of the new age. It was the end of hopefully the end of the lawsuit. But then you kind of remind yourself that 1 in 100 people, or maybe less, on the street, if you just go poll a random group of people, what is XRP? They don't really know what it is. And also, when we had started the project, we didn't really know what the narrative was going to be necessarily. We were XRP holders, we were making the film. And so the whole battle against the SEC became the center mantelpiece of the documentary. And therefore, we wanted to create a title that would be, sort of self-explanatory. This is like, okay, this is a crime documentary. It's a white-collar crime, revolving door of Washington, D.C. style story, and needed the title to be more self-explanatory. We basically didn't want people to self-eliminate, right? You're scrolling through a bunch of films, and you're like, XRP Unleashed, what the heck is that? Never mind. Next. You have like 2 seconds to judge a film by its cover. So we wanted to pick something that would be more like enticing to folks and actually more, more aligned to actually what the story's about.
Yeah. And what made it rigged from the start? What made that be the sentence that you wanted to have?
So I think it kind of came to that conclusion, a couple of key reasons. One was sort of understanding that that term, had resonated with the idea that the entirety of this crypto market was sort of set up from the beginning, at least in this previous, iteration, that the powers that be, the financial elites from the banking institutions and foreign national interests had been trying to manipulate the crypto market pretty much from the very beginning in its earliest days through controlling the vast majority of the Bitcoin mining and then controlling the Ethereum Foundation and hampering innovation in the United States because we didn't have our legislation together here. So I felt like it was an appropriate title. And also, I think that term is triggering for some people. Rigged is like a big term that's used a lot in the media. And so I felt like it was something that would resonate more like, yeah, like something's been messed up and I want to know where it is and how and why it's been
A
messed up.
trigger word.
It's a trigger
Trigger.
word. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I liked it because it really succinctly says what the whole film is about, that this war on crypto was rigged from the start and it was against XRP.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I thought that was a perfect title for it, even though I blanked on it for a minute.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm, I'm so used to XRP Unleashed because
I
I
know.
love the idea of, the price of XRP finally being able to go up because it's been held down for so
Yeah.
long due to this crazy rigging and this crazy lawsuit. So
Yeah.
I tend to still kind of think about it as XRP Unleashed, but
Yeah.
it's a much better title that you gave it.
That's its kind of essence is that, and people in the community, I still kind of transposed the titles myself as well. And we left it in the final title card of the film because we felt like after everything we've been through, after everything the community, crypto community has been through, that we're finally sort of moving towards the very early stages of this, Web3 blockchain revolution. And so I just felt like it was appropriate to leave it at the end, like kind of a positive ending. Like here we are, and we're going into this new age, the age of Aquarius. We're going into this new age.
Yeah. And so you did these premieres around the country in major cities around the country, and the last one was Los Angeles, which I joined you at, and that was amazing to see it in a theater in the big screen. But how did those premieres go around the country?
Yeah, we had a great time. It was a really great audience. We went to Scottsdale, Houston, Atlanta, DC, New York, Boston, and LA. And the crowds just kept getting bigger and bigger with each premiere, each city. So the one that you were at, I would say, was the biggest one. It had definitely the most amount of people in the film, but then the energy was just electric. it was surreal. It was definitely a dream come true for Chris and I. So
It was tiring flying to all those cities, that's for sure. Every day we'd wake up, get out of the hotel, jump on a plane, fly to the next city, go to the theater, and we had recut the film. So, we had like just finished a new version of the film on Monday of that week. And so we were traveling around with a hard drive and being like, please, please upload the film. So the behind the scenes of that is like literally moments before the audience would arrive, the film was just making it into the projector, and we were, running the reg desk ourselves because there was no one else to do that. And so we were, preparing emails and sending out messages and checking people in. And so it was kind of a mad dash, but I think the heartwarming part of it was a lot of folks come obviously because people like you, Linda, and other, influencers in the space are in the film. So a lot of them are like, oh, wow, I can see Coach JV or I can see, this, that, or person. But it was kind of weird for us because as the days went on, people are more excited to see us as well. And it was like, oh, that's kind of heartwarming that people actually want to talk to Maya and I rather than, folks who are actually the pundits in the space. So it was cool.
Yeah, so I think one thing that people don't realize is how much of the movie came together at the end or very close to when you were just finishing it. That's such an interesting story. Tell us, like, what was revealed to you at the end of your filming as you're kind of working on it and have this deadline to get the movie out, things start to unravel and you start hearing and learning all these things. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely it's like a big complicated onion when you're looking at, the white collar, crimes inside of the SEC. And so when we were, kind of finding what is the narrative, halfway through the year, this year, we kind of started focusing more on the Securities and Exchange Commission and more on the previous administration under Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman's reign, what's also referred to as ETHgate. But it wasn't until we started talking to Steven Narioff that it was like, okay, like there's a bigger, story here with the Ethereum Foundation. So when we had decided, kind of go down that route, I started sort of architecting what the timeline was going to be, what were we going to show where. We actually were in a place where we needed to go get more coverage. Coverage in the industry means like another interview, more footage of Jimmy Valley and of Steven Narioff because the stuff I had wasn't quite there. I was like missing some pieces. So I was like, Jimmy, I kind of need you to come to LA and shoot another sequence, please. And he was very gracious with his time and came out here. And then literally like maybe 3 weeks before we finished the film, I hired a bunch of lookalike actors that looked like Bill Hinman and Jake and
Alec.
a bunch of the people Vitalik Buterin and stuff. So we hired a bunch of them and then brought them out and shot a bunch of shots so that I could like make an interesting visual sequence. And then
Wow.
we went back to New York and shot with Steven again and got that more compressed, and everything you see is actually from the second Steven interview that I did. Because I kind of learned, from the first one what I wanted what I needed the narrative to be. And so that was kind of all came together. You don't really know what the story's going to be until you get pretty far into the edit and you're like, okay, now I know what it is, so I know where my holes are. And that was kind of how we did it.
Is that normal in the filmmaking process?
I mean, for a documentary, yes. Obviously a feature film, you're very planned. Every storyboard is lined out, like you know what it is. In this documentary, we as you're asking
Changing
people.
in real time.
Yeah,
So
you're changing in real time because people are telling you information. Obviously, I'm asking certain questions because I'm trying to build a certain narrative, but I think you people are the experts. When I'm talking to you and you say something interesting that I didn't know, and obviously I'm in constant learning and discovery mode, it changes the course of, what we could potentially cover. And so that process is ongoing until we get to a place where like, okay, now we kind of know what the narrative is going to be.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because Stephen is literally giving you emails with the SEC and with
Yeah.
other entrepreneurs and sharing with you, some very intimate details of what went on years ago. And that had to be just eye-opening and just somewhat shocking, I would imagine.
it,
Yes. Go ahead,
Yes, it
Mark.
was. Yeah, I mean, every time it was almost, for a while there, every phone call we got from Steven was always, hey, I have something else. I found something else. Another email, another text message from Charles or Vitalik or Joseph Lubin, Bill Hinman. And so, it was very exciting putting this story together. We did feel, it does come across as kind of a crime journal, investigative documentary. And we did for a little while feel like we were news reporters for a while or just investigators, so it
Yeah,
was fun.
it
Yeah,
does turn into that over time. Yeah.
yeah, very interesting. Okay, so you got it all done. You've had the premieres. You went to Las Vegas to some film show to possibly get interest from the industry. How did that go?
Well, the industry is really tough to crack. So, obviously we're newbies in terms of production, and we have what we consider to be the celebrities of our space in there, but not celebrities by the standards of Hollywood. And so the American film market, for those who don't know, there's like five global markets where films are sold and exchanged. The American film market claims to have $1 billion in deals done each year. And the American film market's unique because it's not a film festival. All the other markets in the world are festivals. Some of these names things like Sundance and Tribeca, Toronto International
Yes.
Film Festival, Cannes. These are the real festivals where you get in by artistic merit and or you have a celebrity in your film, and by that chance, then there are buyers there to do acquisitions. The American film market is unique because it is more of a place where people are going to exhibit films. They're not really then there on any artistic merit at all. They're just, hey, I have a product, I'm trying to sell it, and they're trying to have that exchange.
Yeah.
So when we go there, basically you're knocking on doors, you're cold calling sales and distribution companies that specialize in aggregating films into the industry. Maybe they know people at Netflix, maybe they know people at these different streaming platforms. So that's just a little bit of background context on what it is. So when we're going there, like you're competing for time, everyone's competing for time with these sales and distribution agencies, and you're knocking on doors. And we had done a few weeks of homework. We had pre-emailed everybody, sent trailers out. We had released a new trailer a couple of weeks before, and we had like literally called every single one of them. I went through a list of over 250 companies and shortlisted the ones that we thought
A lot
were
of work.
interested. And then emailed all of them and then emailed them again and again. Like, you have to call and follow up and knock on doors, and then literally figured out how they do the festival, or I should say the market is, it's in a hotel, and they take out all the beds and everything, and those hotel rooms then become just offices. And so each of the sales and distribution companies have their own office, which is like, hotel suite 11216, right? And so you go there and you walk into the room, and they've got some intern, blocking the door that's like, who are you? Why are you here? Who you see? And I already know the names of all. I'm here to see Jack Russell from blah, blah, blah production, because we have already done the homework. And then you're getting in there and getting some acquisition managers' contact information, which sometimes isn't the public contact information. And then you're emailing them and saying, here's the film, here it is, it's done. First thing
Hoping
you got
for
to say is,
offer.
I
Yeah.
don't need money. The film is done. Like I'm not asking for financing. I just want you to distribute this thing. And so it's hard to, I mean, this is like the behind the scenes of it. It's just literally cold calling, talking to folks. Meanwhile, we're building up a social following online and getting people excited with trailers and accolades, and we're doing these screening tours, and they're sold out, and people are really excited. But on the Hollywood side, it's like, deaf ears. Like everybody we talked to was like, wow, I don't know anything about this. Isn't crypto kind of a scam? I'm not really sure, like most of them were really, sort of hesitant and or very opinionated. Oh, you don't want to self-distribute. You'll never be successful if you release it online. Like you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, I'm doing that. I don't care what you have to say. You know, we're going to do it because we know our audience is there. And obviously we're going to try to expand it. But my net takeaway was largely, the drawbridge will come down when you are successful on your own right.
We
And
sure don't help you.
they do not help you. They have no help to
That-
offer. Their advice
That's how you're
mostly
successful.
is bad. They have bad advice, like, hey, why don't you go? I remember 3 or 4 months ago. Can you imagine how this would have went? They were like, why don't you go get like a Mark Cuban to be in your documentary?
Oh, no.
That's a household name. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark Cuban's done a lot of good for his brand in the last 6 months, hasn't he? So, um, you know, and those are like paid players, by the way. Like you can get Mark Cuban, you can get LeBron James. You just got to pay him. You got to write him a check, $50,000. They'll show up for 15 minutes, and now you have a celebrity name. But we're two people making this documentary, and so our budget wasn't tiny, but our budget wasn't. I can't afford to like pay. Well, first of all, no one by principle was paid to be in the documentary. But secondly, now you want me to add arbitrary celebrity, which has nothing to do with the integrity of the story.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to do that. We were like, nah, we don't want to do that. So we're still, having little conversations. I would say I had a couple like slap in the face offers, like, people like, oh, we can help you, distribute, but we're gonna take 50% of every sale, and like,
You
we'll
know
have
what,
we'll have fees, and you'll pay us back first, and like, screw you. You didn't take any.
Linda, we
You,
know our value.
yeah, you didn't do
Sounds
any
like
of
Mr.
that work.
Wonderful on Shark Tank trying to get a deal.
Yes,
That's
Yeah.
not good for
they are
you.
sharks. They are sharks.
No, they were bad. So, we're gonna, our plan right now is we're gonna expand to a couple other places. So we did get our contract signed to, and this is again self-distribution, but we're gonna early next year bring it out to iTunes and Amazon and Vudu, like the stand
Apple.
and Google, and like these are like the standard places people rent and buy movies. We'll have rentals next year, and we'll launch a subscription service on X, and on our Fruition Network, which is our website where people can subscribe and get access to content, and we lower the price of entry a little bit. Because ultimately what we're trying to do, Linda, is create a citizen journalism style, documentary network, and build out stories that help people understand, the ins and outs. For now, the ins and outs of the, blockchain Web3 universe, but, we'll expand to other storylines later. But I think that as Elon has stated, like, we are the media now. Like, the regular people are the media. I think we've grown to kind of lose a little bit of our journalistic integrity in the mainstream. And so we're trying to focus in on these storylines that help educate people on, these incredible stories of
Being truth
government
back.
of government corruption and overreach, and really help us decentralize our democracy, take our democracy back, be aware of these things, and really get some kind of journalistic integrity beyond, like, trolling on the internet or mainstream media.
Yeah, well, I mean, here you are, self-funded. You had invested in crypto, as I understand, and then made some profits and used those profits to do this film. And so, sold some potential future wealth that you may have
Yeah.
developed through your investments. And so
Yeah.
we'll talk about that at the end, and some help that I'm going to recommend that people do to keep you guys afloat. We have to keep you out there creating more documentaries and, exposing the truth for us, because the standard media is not doing that, and they're not doing their job. They're no longer investigative. They're no longer tracking down the criminals and the crime and exposing it. And in some cases, it's being covered up by them. So we need people like you. We need to keep you, well funded so that you can keep
Oh,
doing these things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate
yeah,
that. Yeah.
thank you.
It isn't cheap to make these things, and Maya and I, to be clear, Maya and I have yet to collect a paycheck from the film. Like, we had to pay back production costs, which are, we obviously had to pay our crew, our people that helped us make the film, and the people we traveled around to all these folks. So, in Hollywood terms, we have a low budget, but in terms of just two random people, self-financing a documentary, spending, a couple $100,000 is not trivial. It's a lot of money for an average person. So we, have made that decision to kind of risk it, as entrepreneurs do. Like, we're risking it to try to create this. But I think we have the startings, the makings of a very exciting chapter in Maya and I's life, and also, helping the public understand more about these things and create more of these stories. And I'm confident that we will get to profitability very soon, and after that, hopefully create a cash flow business where we're able to continue to do these things. And we're even considering maybe next year converting the whole thing to a nonprofit and just become like a documentary film company that is a public service for education. Because to be real, like there isn't a ton of margin in film. The days of, yeah, especially documentaries, but like the days of, $100 million box office is like pretty rare. Like Wicked's out right now, and they spent $125 million on that film. It's got Ariana Grande as the star, and they spent $200 million in marketing, like, and they have two parts to it. And yeah, it exists at that high level, but as independent filmmakers, like those numbers are just la la land. They don't even exist. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I can see that this one was, as you say, very specific to XRP and very
Yep.
specific to a specific scenario, a specific time, specific thing that happened, which was the lawsuit by the SEC. But your next film that you're talking about working on is more general about money and more about the Federal Reserve and what's going on with money in general, and it's called Money Disrupted, right? So tell us about what that entails, because I think that could actually be extremely profitable for you since it will appeal to the broad audience and really to every American.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, started my research. I've been raking my way through the Creature of Jekyll Island. Um, you know, it's a story that relates to all of us. I mean, we all feel the realities of inflation. And a lot of parts of the interview that we did with you, Linda, got cut from the film because I had actually originally created a whole first episode, and that first episode in the series was called Money Disrupted. That was the title of the episode. And I kept looking at it and watching it and being like, this isn't part of this other thing. This is a much bigger topic. And we need more real estate, more time to investigate it. So I decided to kind of shelf it or place it to the side to finish the journey of the SEC's battle in Rig from the Start. But then I was like, this is a logical follow-up because a lot of the audience is still the audience that watched our Rig from the Start documentary is interested in the world of finance and financial crimes, and there is no bigger financial crime than the Federal Reserve. So they go to the source of all money printing. And so helping, I think that the financial elites purposefully, kind of make it more mysterious than it needs to be. Like I don't think that the financial system needs to be as mysterious as it is. I think people like you are always like helping educate the masses on this. And so we want to do that in a documentary format to really focus on, I think, partially the past. Like, so how did we get this system? Like, how did the Federal Reserve come to be for a modern audience? What are some of the phases it's had? And how has it ostensibly actually failed at the publicly stated objective, but succeeded on on its
Yeah.
private objective, which is really,
Bankers.
which is
Yeah.
to enrich banking, enrich the banking industry. And why are we at a precipice now where it's just completely unsustainable? I was amazed to read, like, you look in history at like the Weimar Republic, which was in Germany, and they had a central bank there that printed their money into oblivion, and they had hyperinflation, literal pictures of wheelbarrows of cash to, buy bread. And that banking system was what our Federal Reserve was based on. They'd brought the principles of European central banks over here with the likes of Rothschilds and the JP Morgans and the Rockefellers getting together to compete against the Wild West of new banks, actually doing good banking, holding a certain amount of reserves. And so I think that story is interesting because it relates to every American feeling the pain at the grocery store. You had told me that quote when I interviewed you that 40% of all money had been printed since 2020. And just let that sink in. 40% of every money,
Hey.
all dollars fabricated would have been done in the last 4 years. So no wonder eggs are $7. No wonder like a cereal box is 7.50. Like I saw a YouTube video of some guy who had like his Walmart like online checkout box. And I don't know if you've seen this, Linda, but it's like It was in 2020, it was $124. It was like, average household groceries for like a month. He had that same thing. He's like, I'm gonna reorder this. Reordering it in the year 2024, it cost $425 for the same exact goods. Same exact goods. And so that is that's the why. That's the why of we need to know what is going on. And that's the kind of the first part of that story is how did it come to be and why is it dysfunctional? And then the second part of that story really is how are we going to disrupt that monetary system? Like what is to come in the future? There have been calls to abolish the Federal Reserve, and I think we'll interview and talk with folks that are, part of that movement. We've had three other Federal Reserves prior to the current Federal Reserve, and so it's a unique time in history where I think there's momentum now because they have to fix it. It's so fundamentally imbalanced
Yeah.
that we're forced to replace it, abolish it, reinstitute, the constitutional treasury with assets backing it. And I think blockchain serves a very interesting and intricate part of like what the future of finance is there. So we want to really, in cinematic format, show people that story of how the bankers got together, created the Federal Reserve, how it failed the American people, but served them, and how now we're trying to move past it. Like, what's the solution? What's the optimistic ending? Where are we going? What are the options? Get the best minds out there talking about how we can move back to an asset-backed dollar and really what's the future of finance there. So that's what Money Disrupt is like synopsis, like longer format synopsis is about.
I love it. And I mean, I think everybody's feeling that with, the price of housing going up is really
Yeah.
our purchasing power declining, right? And the price of
Yeah.
gold going up is really our purchasing power declining.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
money is losing value quickly
Yeah.
now. And this is a timely movie for you to be working on. So I'm so excited for that to come out. And you think that's coming out next spring, is that right?
Yeah, I think we can be done
July.
by like June, July of next year. So middle of summer next year. I mean, that is a breakneck speed, but we do have a little bit of it kind of together right now, and we're working on getting an interview with G. Griffith, who wrote the, Creature of Jekyll Island. And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. He's not a spring chicken exactly. So, I want to get an interview with him very quickly, and that's why I'm trying to sprint through his book over the next few weeks. And yeah, we think we can be done. We learned a lot from this first film, so what to do, what not to do, how to be efficient. And I have a strong thesis on what the outline is and who we need and how we're going to construct it. And I think it'll be even more fun because we'll be able to do some like historical recreations of,
A period piece, right? 1920.
well, it's multiple periods, really. I mean, Satoshi has a role in it because I think Bitcoin is a direct response to the 2008 financial collapse, which is an echo of the 1907 collapse,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's all connected in my mind in one big crazy mesh. So we're excited to have that out there, and we'll try to gear up to have that out by mid of next year.
So good. That's going to be just awesome. I can't wait. And I'm proud to be a part of that too. So thank you.
Yeah. We're excited to have you back and kind of let you shine there. You and Lynette Zhang and a few others, and hopefully maybe we get like Rosie Rios or someone from like some previous Federal Reserve person to come out of the woodwork and talk with us. It'd be amazing to get an all-star lineup of folks in and out of, the federal system to help us, which we should mention is neither federal nor a reserve.
Exactly. Well, that sounds amazing. So tell us how you got started filmmaking. And I mean, I really want to go back to the beginning with, your interest there, also your relationship, how you two met, I mean, you guys are partners in this too. It's partners in life and partners in the film. And you also, just from having you come to my home and filming me in my home, watching you two interact was so amazing because you're like, I don't know, you both complement each other so well in your skill set and just how you are, your personalities. It was so nice to see. It really was.
Oh, thank you, Linda. I'll just talk about a little bit of how we met, and then Chris can talk about the film stuff. Actually, we met in Vegas, to be honest, at a piano bar. I mean, I had just turned 30. I am also 6 months older, so No, but we were at a piano bar. We were really into musicals and Broadway shows, and we love piano bars and music. And so we actually always joke that, or I joke that I was the only one under 60 in that piano bar. So he had no other choice. But yeah, it just kind of, being a husband-wife team, it's been just a lot of fun. We do complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. My strengths are his weakness, his strengths are my weakness. And so it's just been fun kind of, doing these projects together, getting him more into crypto because I was the first one that really got into crypto, made friends with kind of the TikTok and X space, with like Brooke and Rico and Zach Rector, all of them originally kind of 3-4 years ago, and then getting Chris into that world as well. So that's a little bit about just how we met. Getting in 2017 originally with Bitcoin, and then doing some of the bigger market cap Ethereum. At one point we were mining Ethereum as well. Chris built his own rig and all of that. But yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of how we met. And then Chris can tell you a little bit of his story about how he got into filming and such. So
She really oversimplified that story. What actually
I
happened,
did, I did.
okay? I show up, I'm with my friend in Vegas, and we go to inside of the Bellagio. Okay, there's a nice little
Oh no.
piano
Okay.
bar in the lobby of the Bellagio, if you know where that's at. And we had sat down because my friend and I had gone to theater school together. We're both actors, so we're kind of like screwing around with the pianist, like just playing with him because obviously Vegas is full of crazy people. And Maya was sitting right there in the chair right there in front of us, like, "Hey, you want to come over here?" And she said no. And I was like, "Okay, that's fine. Not interested." And then after the guy had finished his set, she came over, talked for 10 minutes, disappeared. And the piano player was really formal. He had given a handshake and gave first and last name. So when someone does that, I respond the same way. Okay, well, hey, I'm Chris Dodge. Nice to meet you. Okay, good. And that was it. And my friend and I, Noah, we walked away, went to the next place. We were just kind of, he had never been to Vegas, so I was showing him around to all the bars and different places. And Maya decided that she should have come back and to meet us. She's like, "Oh, maybe I should go meet those guys."
No, no, no. What it was my intuition, and which my intuition. I tell
Sure,
everyone,
sure.
your intuition, but I
But she
came
had,
back. I
let's
came
be
back.
clear, you said no, you weren't interested, and then you decided, "Oh,
To
no,
be 30 and single. Okay.
maybe I should have gone back and talked to that guy. He wasn't evil because I respected her. She was like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like, see you later. Bye." And so then she goes to the piano player, like, "Did you get those guys' name?" And she got my name and my friend's name. Well, I wasn't on social media, so 2 days later,
Hard to find. Hard to
I'm
find.
back in Seattle, and my buddy's like, "Remember that girl we met at the bar in the Bellagio? She just hit me up on Facebook. Should I give your number to her?" I said, "Yeah, you should do it." And 4 days later, I was back in Vegas, and the rest is history. We spent the first four
Well,
months or so on this romantic escapade where we would travel to different cities because we lived in different cities. So we'd meet up in San Francisco or New York and different places, and like that was how we dated.
because he was working at Google, or but because he would travel so much with Google, he would say, "Hey, meet me in London next weekend, meet me in San Francisco and New York." And so it was kind of like a movie. It was a dream come true, and
Yeah.
the rest is
That,
history.
that's
So
the real story. You downplayed that.
that's
You
the
think,
real
I'm just
story.
kind of living come in here like tell the real story. Okay.
All right, all right.
Okay. So there you go, Linda. That's the real story.
I don't know if Linda wanted the whole
I
story.
know, but it's fine. People like it.
It sounds like a movie in and of itself.
It was, yeah. It was, yeah. And so I think like a couple things. So,
No, yeah.
my original background was in theater. So I had gone to theater school. I'd gone to an arts conservatory to be an actor and quickly realized like probably not going to be an actor. It was really hard. And so I continued my studies, but halfway through, you have the chance to apply to an additional program in addition to acting to what was called original works for us. And that was directing and writing for theater as well. So I had kind of finished my course of study there, and promptly after leaving art school, you realize you need to make a living. You're like, okay, like this is not going to be easy. And I was in Seattle, which was not a place where, the film industry existed. Although I always had like a cursory interest in film, I had made little films when I was in high school. I'd made a couple little films while I was in college. but I wasn't in the course of study of film itself. And so, anyways, long story short is I end up getting a day job and working in marketing, and then make my way and work my way into corporate America. And everything's going really well. I'm like traveling the world and a lot of cool stuff. And, as far as corporate America is concerned, Google at that time was a great place to be. It was very innovative and it felt like, an entrepreneur could exist inside of it at that time. It isn't that way anymore. But uh, after a few years, I started looking at the papers and, as a 20 something now with a six-figure job and like a stock portfolio and a retirement investment fund, like a 401k, I was like met with a financial planner inside of Google and it was like, oh yeah, yeah, if you just max out your 401k every year and put away your money, you'll have by retirement at 62 years old, and I'm at this time I'm 20, 28, 29, working at Google. Um, you'll have $1.8 million. And I was like, $1.8 million. By time I'm 62, I'm doing the math on inflation and on everything else. I'm like,
Much.
that sucks. That's horrible. Like that's not enough money. And so I quickly realized I looked at the funds that they were invested in, because then suddenly you have stock and you're like, okay, well, what is this stock thing? And like, how much should I have? And should I liquidate it? Should I diversify it? And then you kind of quickly start realizing you're like, wow, these aren't going to compound fast enough for me. Like this traditional mutual fund is going to not compound fast enough. So that was the converging idea that Maya and I had, which was Maya was the one who was like, well,
I found crypto and
crypto
then
compounds faster. And then I started looking at the compounding rates that Bitcoin was experiencing and looked at the math behind Bitcoin. And I was like, oh my God, like that is way more interesting than my mutual fund, which is going to promise me. I mean, I don't want to be insensitive to folks when you hear like 1.8 million and think that's a lot of money, but like I'm talking about, I'm retiring in the year 2060, 2058,
Right.
something like that. Like $1.8 million in 2058 it ain't gonna cut it. Okay. Like milk's gonna be, $25 a gallon or something. So it just wasn't gonna work. And so that was what kind of got us into the crypto side. And then long story short, the reason we got back into film is Maya was like, hey, I know you have this dream. She's always been very encouraging of like, this is the dream. You want to do this, like you should do it. And so at the kind of end of COVID, it was 2021. We were like, man, I really don't want to spend one more minute in this house. We had this house in Seattle and, did all the right things. And we were just like, we got to chase our dreams. So we moved down to Los Angeles thinking Tinseltown, that's where you got to go to
yeah,
make a movie. So at least that was like the idea. And we were lucky enough through crypto, talking to different people about crypto, to actually meet
Oscar,
a
yeah.
producer here in town. And that producer became my mentor, and he was a really great guy. And I learned a lot from him in the first couple of years here, and we started making content together. And eventually, I kind of broke free of that and thought, what can we do, to make a project that we can manage ourselves? And then that's why a documentary. And so that kind of one thing led to the next. I'm so happy to be sort of course corrected from my decade I spent in corporate America to be following again, the dream of filmmaking and storytelling and doing that in documentaries for now. And, we'll do it in other formats later. But that's kind of the long story of how we got to where we are today.
Well, tell about your mom, you know.
Well, I think like another motivating factor was, so I had my retirement, calculations done, but my mom, who was a government employee, was like and still is like in her 50s, late 50s. And she was kind of in that mode of like, I have to work because I have to get to my retirement age so that I can have, so that I can get and she's lucky enough to have a pension. Most people don't have pensions in this day and age. But the problem that she was telling me, so that's the good side. Oh, I gotta, I'm privileged enough to have a pension and I'm privileged enough to have, the idea of Social Security. Forget about Maya and I. Like, I don't know, Social Security is gonna exist for us, but she's like saying, okay, I'm gonna get there. But then she's like, I'm not, but I have to be careful because when I retire, I'm not going to be able to afford anything, like no dogs, no trips, no nothing, like not even a dog. I was like, what? And she's like, I just can't afford to live. And to be fair, they did everything right. They have no debt, their cars are paid off, their house is paid off, and they still couldn't circum the costs of living with a meager, pension. Like these aren't big pensions, there's just a little bit of money there. And so I was like, dang, that's broken. Like I don't want to do that. So that was even more incentive for us to kind of risk it and try to find a way. Well, we kind of have multiple irons in the fire. We have a crypto reserve. Hopefully that goes well. We're trying to build a business that hopefully that goes well. And you do what you can to build assets, not liabilities. So what are assets? Intellectual property. That's a film, a book, something that can have legs, exist as a product and be sold over and over without us involved. I think the key was switching my mind from a wage worker, a salary worker, even though I was a high salary worker, to somebody who owns assets that can generate that revenue while you're sleeping. Like that's the goal. And so that's what we tried to transition to.
Yeah, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the compounding. Many people aren't that keen on it or aren't as aware as you are, but money compounding in time, that's the formula for wealth building, right? So
Yeah.
how much money you have to invest, how long you can compound it, and what you're invested in. And
Yeah.
you're right, with crypto, we're seeing the highest compounding rates we've ever seen in
Yeah.
history in new asset class, with Bitcoin compounding around 200% per year on average. It's
Amazing.
spectacular.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the only one. In fact, it may not even be the best one years from now. So that's exciting that you picked up on that. And it ties into everything that you did, including the movie, including your next movie. I mean, it's just, it's so perfect. But I also want to make the point that some people have asked about your relationship with Google, and I just want to say that Google had nothing to do with the movie.
That's true.
I just want to get that on the record, that they did not fund this. You did not do this because of them.
No.
This has nothing to do with them. You just happen to be working there. This is your separate interest, and the
Yeah.
two are not related. Is that right?
That is correct. And in fact, I am not going to be working there very soon. So I'm actually leaving, or I was, I'm going to be not an employee there effective January 19th of this coming year. And so, to fully pursue my time as a filmmaker. So that they had nothing to do with it. If anything, I probably like didn't do a great job over the last year, like being my Google self, because
Distracted. You
I
were a
was
little
just
distracted.
spending more of my time and energy doing this, like if I'm being
Yeah,
very transparent. But
Chasing your dream, of course. It's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. But
exactly.
that they kind of had, I try to tread carefully. Like they were a great place to work. They're a great corporation. And there might be people out there still dreaming of working there. But I had watched that company, they have very high bar of hiring. So a lot of us that work there are entrepreneurs, very
Yeah.
fast thinkers, very like disruptors, but the company became so large, particularly over COVID, hiring, tens of thousands of people. I was in as of my resignation, I'm in the 99th percentile, meaning that 99% of people are working
Right
there
after
less
you.
time than me.
Yep.
So my tenure is I'm in the 1 percentile of Googlers because I was there for a
When
decade.
were you there?
I was there from 2015 to now.
Wow.
So that puts me in the 1 percentile of Googlers in terms of like my
Easy.
tenure, um, which is crazy to think about. So, anyways, they have become a very bureaucratic place. It's very hard to get like innovative things
Much
that
red tape.
a lot of red tape, very hard. It's very frustrating to work there now. And so I still think, it's an amazing company and I can't say anything bad about my coworkers. I think they're great, and the managers I had were great. It's just sort of frustrating if you're trying to actually go fast, and I think that
Make
end
a real change.
they're gonna end up, kind of considering continuing as many mega corporations are doing right now, kind of like squeezing down their workforce, figuring out how low can they get their P&L, versus their profit margin. So yeah, they didn't have anything to do with it. In fact, they probably didn't want me to do it. And they have no financial interest in it, and they're not related at all.
How do you think AI is going to impact Google in the future, or any search engine company?
I
What's
think I
Take
think
over most of it.
yeah, I mean, I think that AI, the whole AI thing, was, super scary to incumbents. To be fair, Google was a leader in AI for a long time. They were really some of the first to do a lot of these things. It just happened to be that ChatGPT, that OpenAI, like brought more of it to the public faster. So I think the AI is a really powerful tool. I think as an individual entrepreneur, it's a fantastic tool to get things done. You think of it as like it's a virtual employee for you, that can do specialized tasks. And I think it's an amazing tool set for an entrepreneur. I think as a big business, if I was like in a mega corporation, I would be like, there's going to be a lot of redundancy that's cut out. There's going to be a lot of automation of of tasks, right? So and it always happens in every generation. The typewriter company is fighting against the computer company because the computer company is going to put all the typists out of business. But, in reality, it just creates more innovation and more opportunity. It increases productivity. Um, so I think that overall it's amazing as a small entrepreneur, and I really embrace it in everything that I do. And even as a filmmaker, I'll be embracing it because once I can kind of page to stage from my mind and use AI to generate images, I'm not looking at it to replace expertise. I still think the human element of talking and the human element of acting matters. But if I need a random shot of New York City or a random shot of, a person that is in time period inside of a train car and that's very specific and I need it for a moment, AI becomes a really cool, powerful tool to make that happen.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Well, that is exciting. So let's talk about how people can view the movie. I know that they can go online to fruitionproductions.com/store
Hmm.
and pay $14.99 and they can watch it online.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yep.
And then also, I asked you to create a wallet so that people who might want to donate XRP to refill the XRP that you had to sell off to make this movie about XRP,
Yeah. Sad.
that
Yeah.
we could help you out there. So I will post your wallet address in the show notes or in the
Yeah. Yeah, for people that are interested, we're kind of starting to embrace that digital side of things. So we do have that Zaman wallet out there now that people can donate to. If you don't have crypto or you're not doing that, you can donate to us from our website directly if you'd prefer to do that. But another way to donate is, buy a shirt, buy a poster, like buy merchandise, like so you can get something in exchange. I always feel like, giving you a
Yes.
service.
Yeah, we will be updating the merchandise.
Yeah, so there'll be more merch out there and
In the next day or
poster.
two.
Do you have the new Rigged from the Start poster yet? Because I'll
yeah, we're gonna launch that very soon, and then we are actually going to be doing something really interesting in the world of NFTs. We're going to be launching a set of special NFTs online as well, and those will come corresponding with actual physical holographic cards as well. So when we were on the road, we were traveling to each of those cities. There was actually some minting going on, timestamped to the day that we were in those cities. So for people who aren't as familiar with NFTs, those are kind of like digital collectibles. And in order to kind of really make it feel like rather than just like we love the idea of donations and people, but if they want to like get something in return, we're going to be releasing through the end of the year a set of limited edition, never going to do it again NFTs that are correspondent to each of the cities. And when you get those NFTs, those will actually be yours digitally, but we will also send the original purchaser a digital, actual physical holographic card that has a memorabilia from that city that's about the whole, film making process, and you're supporting the film through that tokenization of those little assets, which are the NFTs. So there'll be a whole collection of them, and that'll actually be the last way you'll be able to get the XRP Unleashed poster. So that will be leaving our store, and we have a set of posters that we minted the day of the launch, which was November 21st. So when you purchase one of those digital NFT versions of XRP Unleashed poster, we'll send you the last copies of the physical versions, and we can sign them if you'd like us to. And that'll be kind of the last time you can ever get those, because those are going to leave the store and they'll be available as NFTs. So we're trying to embrace that new universe of doing something digital, providing a collectible, and allowing you to get something rare that we're never going to release again. And that'll be the end of that whole like collection. And there'll be a set of 7 of those collectibles, which are for each of the cities we did premieres in. And if you collect all 7, we'll do a special. There's going to be like a special collector's card that gives you like, hey, I got all 7 of them. And so that's kind of our plan. We'll release those probably after Thanksgiving, but we'll put them out there, and we're partnering with Fusion and with XRP Cafe and putting that out there to encourage people to interact with the blockchain and kind of participate in the new digital economy.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So if they're on your list at fruitionproductions.com, will they learn about all this through your list? Is that the best way to stay updated?
Yeah, we'll continue to update things there. We'll put the NFT collection on the website, and then you'll be able to purchase those on the NFT collection places, which are Fusion and XRP Cafe. You can go there and purchase those. So obviously the wallet's there if you want to donate. Buy the documentary. That's number one. Buy the documentary or gift it if you can gift it to a family or friend.
Christmas gift.
Christmas gift. And then we're doing a little Black Friday sale. There's retail loves Black Friday, so there'll be a little discount available for 72 hours from Friday through Sunday. And so for folks who want to gift it, that's a perfect time to pick it up and gift it to a family member or friend. And then all those other, NFTs and stuff will launch in December.
Okay. Well, that sounds fantastic. Well, is there anything else you want to tell our audience about your film?
Maia?
No, I mean, I think that's all the information. We just appreciate the support from the community.
Yep.
As I always say, you made our dreams come true, right? The impossible become possible. It really has been quite the journey. And, we've been so fortunate to meet all these amazing individuals along the way, such as Linda. And, yeah, just please continue to, now's the time if you're, hesitant with anything, or, the power's back with the people, right? The power, it's our time. And I just encourage everyone to take that leap. If you want to do something in your own life to further yourself, your family, now's the time. So, yep.
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda, for having us on here on your program.
Thank you, Linda.
The documentary is again called Rigged from the Start, Exposing the SEC's War on Crypto. It's available on our website. That's fruitionproductions.com. And that's the only place to get it right now in 2024. That's the only authorized vendor to buy the film. So we appreciate everyone doing that. And we will be hitting major streaming platforms in terms of rentals next year: iTunes, Amazon, Vudu. And we'll also be launching very shortly subtitles for those folks who'd prefer to watch content in their native language. We're going to bring it out in Spanish, French, German, Japanese, Korean, a few other languages. So there'll be an opportunity to watch it with subtitles so you can watch it in your preferred language.
That is so awesome. Well, kudos to you for following your dreams and being a powerful duo, a power couple. And I just wish you all success.
Thank you, Linda.
Movie and the next.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.